Hi friends, welcome back to Joyful Motherhood, where I am finding more joy, peace, contentment, and balance in motherhood, and I'm sharing those things with you guys. I am also passionate about sharing my experiences because I think it's a great way for mothers to connect around the world and teach each other and help each other. So this is an experience I've been wanting to share because I think it's slightly unique and I don't think there's enough information on the internet about it. So I wanted to put it out there, but I have to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous, and when I was searching about this topic, I feel like breastfeeding videos and breastfeeding discussions are intended for mothers out there so we can connect like I'm trying to do, but it can be used in disturbing ways. And so I hope that if you're here, you are here to learn. Hopefully the information I give you can help you in your own experience. So I breastfed two of my children at the same time, and they're not twins. So it was a toddler and a newborn baby. You might be wondering why I did that, how it worked, is that even possible? And I hope that this will be kind of like moms sitting down and just talking. I remember a year or two after I had done this, I had someone contact me through Facebook actually, and this sweet girl, she came over to my house and she asked me questions, and I was able to teach her how to do this and how it works and why she might consider doing it. I don't know what happened with her, but she was really curious and she was expecting her second baby and still nursing her toddler. And so I know that this is more common than we realize, and maybe moms don't know that they can do this too. Man, I'm just having a hard time like putting my words together to share with you what I really want to say, but I think I just want to tell you my experience. I'll just tell you the story, why I chose to do it, throw in some details. But if you're curious about more, I am also writing a blog post too, and so there's going to be more information there, tips for boundaries for toddlers, things like that on my blog. So check out myjoyfulmotherhood.com and there will be way more information. But this is just going to be a rundown of the story of breastfeeding my two kids. So if you're wondering why I even did this, let me give you some background. My first son was born and was a really fussy baby. I've talked about this on my blog and in videos, but he had breastfed baby allergies. So what I ate went through my milk and affected him. So he had a cow's milk sensitivity, so I couldn't drink cow's milk, things like that. Well, most American toddlers, they wean to cow's milk when they're 1 year old. That's really common in our culture. And so for me, that wasn't even an option. I couldn't give my son cow's milk. So that was one reason for me to say, well, I'll just keep breastfeeding. There's nothing wrong with that. Another thing to mention for why I continue to extend my breastfeeding is because I have endometriosis, or at least I did, and there's a thought that the hormones produced while breastfeeding suppress the growth of the endometriosis. That's a fertility thing. You can look more into that. It made sense for me to nurse until I was pregnant again, which also suppresses the growth of the endometriosis. So that was just one more reason that I'd be continuing to breastfeed. When my son was 21 months old, so a few months shy of turning 2, I was still breastfeeding and I conceived my second baby, a girl. So at that point, I did a bunch of research to make sure that I was safe to continue breastfeeding. And for me in my situation, I was. Yes, nipple stimulation, breastfeeding can cause contractions, and so that might not be safe for every pregnancy, but it was for me. I remember when I first found out I was pregnant, we had traveled out of state to be with my husband's family, and I had found out the day we were leaving that I was pregnant. So throughout the week or two that we were there with family, I continued to nurse my baby and research, can I do this? Is this going to be okay? And I decided that I would. But then at week 5, extreme nipple soreness came into play and I wanted to wean, but my baby was, or my toddler, he was so sensitive and emotional, and he's just a sensitive kid, which I love about him and it's awesome. But at the time, it wasn't emotionally a good idea for me or him to just stop nursing at that point. Frankly, that was the only way I knew how to parent him because he was such a fussy, particular kid. And on my blog, I also talk about that he probably had more food sensitivities than we realized, and so he was just pretty miserable. He also got sick a lot, which is something to mention. So breast milk is a really handy thing to have when you have a sick baby. It's like the ultimate thing you can give them. So I thought about it, talked to my husband, and we decided to just push through. It was uncomfortable and hard for me, and I'll definitely make a post and a video specifically about nursing through pregnancy, but for me, it was worth the soreness and the contractions that come with it at the end of pregnancy to just be able to still offer that to my toddler. So then I was gearing up to breastfeed 2 kids at the same time, and I really had a hard time finding a lot of information on the internet, but I'll leave some links down below that are super helpful and informative. I was 40 weeks and 6 days pregnant with my baby girl, and I nursed my son to sleep that night, and sure enough, contractions got started like they were doing a lot that last month, and they continued. So throughout the night, I labored. The next morning, I nursed him during labor, and it really set my labor going, and it was really helpful. She was born that afternoon, and I don't think that I nursed my son that day. He was very distracted with grandma and having a great day. And then that next day, I think is the first time I latched him on again. And you have a lot of soreness just from the hormones of giving birth and getting ready to breastfeed again. So it wasn't the most comfortable thing, but my milk came in very quickly, and that was kind of a plus. I had plenty of milk for both the baby and my son. Now here's where I'm going to talk about boundaries. So breastfeeding is a relationship. There are 2 sides, there are feelings on both sides, and it can be a really delicate dance. That's what my midwife called it, was like a dance. You learn together what your relationship is going to be, and it changes and then it ends. So for me, it was really important to set up some boundaries for my toddler because I didn't love nursing him. There weren't a lot of benefits for me except that it was easier to get him down for a nap. It was my surefire way of like, just lay down, put him to sleep, and get up. And then I could stay sane because I had rest as a pregnant woman, I had rest as a new mom. So although I had enough milk for both of them, the newborn came first, right? So a newborn, a baby, their wants are their needs. So they cry for milk and for comfort and for help to sleep. And you have to give it to them because that's survival. But then a toddler, they go through this transition slowly where you have to start telling them no because their wants aren't necessarily their needs anymore, or not right now. So yes, he cries for milk, but he can wait 20 minutes, you know? So it was kind of a hard thing to start just catering to my newborn. And so it was just this really delicate balance of trying to keep everyone's feelings in mind. But ultimately, I have to take care of myself so that I can give to my other kids. And this has taken me years to realize, and I'm still practicing that. For my own mental health, I couldn't just have a toddler and a nursing newborn attached to me all the time. And speaking of that, I didn't nurse them at the same time. That was very uncomfortable for me. I'm sure some people did that, but I had this little nursing aversion to my son. And I think that's nature's way of kind of weaning. But at the time, my son was healthier breastfeeding, and so it was the right choice. Having said that, I didn't nurse him at the same time. The new baby came first always, and then my son, he could nurse once in a while. So in those first few weeks, I actually cut him back to, well, during the pregnancy, in fact, I'd cut him back to morning and evening and naps sometimes, unless he like fell asleep in the car or something. But in those first few weeks of balancing the newborn and him, I slowly put more and more restrictions on nursing him. During the pregnancy, when I had this nursing aversion, which is like you don't want to be touched, I would just give him limits. So I'd say, okay, I'm going to sing one song and you can have your milk while I sing, and then it's done. And he started to understand that. And then it carried on throughout the first few months of nursing the baby and him. And I was able to set my limits of him nursing in the morning and at night. And I really got to the point where it was best for me to just let him nurse once in the morning. So he got the benefits of the breast milk, he got his time with me, his snuggles, and it didn't disrupt my breastfeeding with my daughter. This really worked for us, and eventually as he weaned, I actually nursed him until he was 4. So this was a 1.5 years of breastfeeding both of them at the same time, and somehow it just worked. Would I do this again? Heck no. Can I be honest? But am I glad I did it? Oh yes, definitely. It was such a good experience for them, bonding, and my son didn't really struggle too much with me not having time for him because he felt that love. That was important in that season of my life, but now I'm a mom of 3 kids, and if this came up again, I don't think I would do it. Having said that, if I had to, I would. There are reasons to do this. If you have to, maybe your baby isn't even 1 yet and you find out you're expecting and they really need that breast milk until they're at least 1. And so sometimes you might just have to get through it. If you have a baby with allergies like me, it might be the right choice. But it might not be the right choice. It might be too much on your mental health. You might be too busy. You might be way too uncomfortable to do it, or your pregnancy might not be safe to nurse through. So keep all of that in mind. But I just want to share my experience that it can work. It did work beautifully. And eventually my toddler, he would just nurse every few days, which is really common for a toddler nursing. You might picture it that they're just always attached like a newborn, but that's not the case at all. They really start to wean on their own. And then for me, I just told them, when you're 4, you don't need milk anymore. So that really worked for us. And I have a link I can link down below that talks about when I did wean him, if you're curious about that. So you can find more about my experience with tandem breastfeeding on my blog, myjoyfulmotherhood.com. You can follow me over on Instagram, where I share more often about parenting and motherhood and things like that. So I hope I included everything I wanted to cover. I really just wanted to share my experience as if we are moms sitting together on my bed and talk about what I did. So I am not a better mom because I breastfed a long time or that I nursed 2 kids at the same time. I'm no super mom. This was out of necessity and, quite honestly, convenience, because the emotional toll and the physical toll of weaning can actually be harder than just going through nursing 2 kids. So I hope this was helpful. Give this video a thumbs up. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time. Bye!